Good morning, people, on this beautiful Saturday morning from the sunny Gold Coast in Tugun. Bit wet today up here, or wherever you may be in this gorgeous world of ours. You could be from up here or down there or west or east or anywhere. But I just want to hit on today. I want to talk about struggle. Struggle as what happens in a person's life, and of course I relate this to my situation in struggle, and what I learnt from struggle to create a great life, a free life, a peaceful life, a clear life, a life with no doubt, ultimately, very confident in direction, um, and yeah, just very content. But age has played a part in that, and I don't know if people have picked up on other talks that they've listened to, if they've listened to other talks that I do. I don't believe in age. Also, I believe that locks humans in. But struggle from the point of view of disappointments. Um, Self-talk coming into your soul that you don't know where it's come from, and it's invaded you. That self-talk is put doubt within your soul. It's like an entity that has got into your psyche and is taunting you, or what you're doing is not paying off for the results that you feel in your heart of hearts, that your purpose here on earth is to achieve and do in one's life. Circumstances out of your control that's affected you in ways where there's pain. It's other people's fault. And hey, I just want to hit on with tragedies and events that happens in one's life that is completely out of your control. When you go die is out of your control. You could become a paraplegic. You could get burned unexpectedly. You could have an accident unexpectedly. But even in those times, there is people that have taken something out of terrible events that have happened and gone on to live better lives or a more meaningful life before tragedies happen that they weren't living before events that have happened out of people's control. Even those events do carry the weight of wisdom and the weight of opportunity. And the only way they do that is by taking something out of the event. In these events of struggles, in every single one of our lives, there's not a human on this earth that is not going to experience struggles and setbacks and disappointments and frustrations and not liking themselves and not liking the situation that they're in, being mundane, doing the things day in, day out that becomes boring, and there's no purpose to life. Well, when I hit that rehab in '89, I was made aware in no uncertain terms that drugs were not my problem. And I laughed at this when this was put to me. And on top of that, I told them that I didn't have problems anyway, that they were the problems. But when I was aware that drugs weren't my problem, I was also aware that the problem is the extension of the struggle that was within my soul, and I didn't want to admit that, nor did I, nor could I identify it. And that struggle within my soul was there, which I come to a realisation, for one reason for me, and that was blaming everything outside of myself and not being aware or taking stock that my participation in everything I was doing in life was a consequences of what was happening in my life, and was a consequences also of the outcomes in my life. And when I realised that it was by what I was doing and the way I was dealing with the pain and the struggle in my life, I was then able to see that there was things wrong with me that I wasn't aware of within my soul, because I was identifying with everybody else or something else as the problem, and didn't want to acknowledge that I was a part of everything. I ended up in jail because I stole. I ended up lonely because I was angry and nobody could get close to me. I was struggling with intimacy because I didn't know who I was in those feelings. I was doing all sorts of stuff because there was an underlying motivation to do the things that I was doing, which the outcomes I didn't like. And I wasn't exploring that motivation. I wasn't exploring my feelings. I wasn't exploring my decisions. I wasn't exploring the reasons why I was what I was. I wasn't exploring my family. I wasn't exploring my life. I wasn't exploring anything about me internally. My actions, my behaviour, what I was doing, nothing. So because I wasn't exploring that, and the reason why I wasn't exploring it is because it was something else is the problem. Somebody else was the reason for it, or things happened to me was the reason why I was struggling and things weren't happening in my life. And the best analogy I can give, it's like having something wrong with a car. Let's say the motor, there's something wrong with the motor, the injectors or the pistons, or the valves, or something wrong with the motor. And going to the tyre or the axle, and looking at that as the reason why there's something wrong with the motor. You're never going to fix the motor. You're never going to get to the problem. And the problem is, I firmly believe this in my heart of heart, that any problems in a life is within us. Everything is within us. And until well, for me, and until I realised that, I couldn't get out. It was absolutely impossible to get out of what I was living. And and my case, what was extreme. But there's a lot of people that's struggling and keep on struggling because they can't get out. Their focus is incorrect. It's not other people, it's us. But that's what I believe, and that's what's given me. Well, part of that is giving me the freedom to create every single dream that I've ever wanted, to do everything that I've ever imagined, everything I've dreamed, everything I've felt, everything I've achieved it, and for me, that process was stopping blaming others for what I was doing, for my actions and my behaviours and my decisions in life. and as soon as that was taken into account, then I could move forward. Then I started looking at myself, and when I started looking at myself, there's a lot there to look at. We are really interesting characters. Every single one of us is so bloody interesting and so unique. And there's so much within our souls if we can go in and search for the reasons why things aren't happening in a life, or the reasons why you're unhappy. And I also learnt that it was from all that struggle that I found this. Without the struggle, I don't know. Well, for me, I can only speak from my experience and what I learned about overcoming struggle. Yeah, I wouldn't have got it. And the other thing is, first I decided to take that responsibility. I was aware of what I was doing, and it didn't happen overnight. Where I just woke up one morning and now I didn't blame people for my feelings anymore, or my decisions, or what I chose to do. It was a process, and it was a process through having the ability for me to identify my feelings, identify the hurt, identify the low self-esteem, identify my own frustration, identify not liking myself. I don't think I could have done it if I didn't get really honest with what was going on inside of my soul. Because again, it's like having something wrong inside of a motor and going to the wheel or to another mechanism of a car. I don't know how you're going to find the true problem if you're looking somewhere else. I just don't know how that's going to occur. So the more the more honest I got when I looked within and related to myself and how I was feeling going into these situations. Like just one example, when I was trying to reinvent myself in 2011, I decided to go into a partnership in a franchise of gyms, and I put a lot of money into this deal. It was about 1.1 million that I tipped into it, and the guy had gyms, and he was a business guy. He was American, and he had been to business school, and he talked the talk, and I trusted that. I trusted that it felt good to do this, and it all stacked up. And I also brought in other people that invested, 300,000 a year, 400,000 a year into franchises, and but as I said, to me, it all stacked up. I wanted to reinvent myself, and I was prepared to take, decent sized risks to do that. But there was a lot of things that I overseen in that process. Now looking back in retrospect, and looking back on the autopsy of that loss, I did do all that money, and other people did money in that. But there was a lot of things that I done, looking back now, because I was responsible for what I was doing, that I would never do again. And that doesn't mean that I'm not going to make mistakes. Quite possible I am going to make mistakes. Are they going to be as costly as that? Quite possible they are. But those mistakes get smaller and smaller and smaller. I know that in what I've been trying to learn as far as being a better business person. So yeah, I did do all that money, and I won't go into everything about that. People can wait for that in mini-series on Netflix or Stan or feature films in the future. But I have got a book out, all the W's, kinghitbook.com, where I talk about my success way before that. It started when I come to all the realizations when I hit rehab, and there's other stuff that I talk about on YouTube, and you can find the link through this or other mediums, Dean King, King Hit. So yeah, the more accountable I become in the setbacks and the struggles and the disappointments and the hurts and the pains and the frustrations and the participations and everything I was doing, the more I could fix things. It's hard. It's hard because it feels a lot better to blame. It feels a lot better to blame. But feeling is one thing. Actually, action is another thing. So it's better not to look for instant gratification. That was my daughter that just attempted to come down the stairs, and I shook my head and told her don't. Yeah. Short-term stuff never works. Long-term stuff, I believe, is the best. So have a great day. Have a great weekend, wherever you are in this beautiful world. and yeah, um, take stock of yourself and what you're doing, and in the long term, it's a better journey. Take care.